This video is sponsored by Wren, and you'll find out about that in a couple of seconds. But you know what time it is? It is Friday, baby. It's
DLF time, and today we're talking about melees in Mythic Plus. And you might say, but you just talked about it a few weeks ago. And we might say, well, listen, right now everybody has the tier sets, double legendaries, MDI is kind of showing everybody what's what. And of course, MDI is not a good metric, but we will see a change in the Mythic Plus distribution.
Yeah, there's a couple of shakeups there. Some specs got bumped up and all of that. But we obviously we're looking at data from Subcreation and Warcraft logs and Raider.io. So it's all going to be based on the highest number of keys that these specs could possibly do. And you know, things always change because Blizzard are nerfing and buffing and tuning like every week now specs. And who knows, in 2 weeks by now, all of this might change. But you know what always changes? Our climate, man. And listen, this is no joke. We love nature as much as the next guy. We love, like, when we're not doing videos and making tier lists and stuff, you know, we love going to the park, you know, hiking and all of that. We enjoy the fresh air, but it's getting worse and you can see it all around.
At least where we live, parks are getting smelly. It snows in May. We have freaking seagulls in a mountain city, but luckily, Wren.co is a very neat and simple way to make a difference in the climate crisis, as first off, it will help you calculate and offset your CO2 footprint by answering a few simple questions about your lifestyle. Based on this, you will get solutions on ways to offset the CO2, and if you decide to sign up for a monthly contribution, everything is transparent and you will be able to see how the money is spent and what impact it has.
Yeah, man. Wren has great projects funded, and our personal favorite, the community tree planting, helps to pay subsistence farmers in East Africa to plant trees and sequester carbon, increasing yield and improving soil quality. And the best thing about all of this is the first 100 of you who click the link in the description will have 10 extra trees planted within their name. So, click that link in the description because it will help MarcelianOnline, it will help the planet, everybody wins. Thank you, Wren, for sponsoring the video. Now let's get into it. Arms Warrior!
Man, Arms Warrior is one of the specs that hasn't actually. I think it received just an aura update about 4% extra damage recently.
Not enough.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's probably not gonna be enough since Arms is kind of struggling a little bit behind Fury, maybe a lot behind Fury, maybe a lot behind other specs.
Yeah.
However, it's kind of hanging on right now and there, and I think it's probably around the C tier specs. Yeah. And listen, starting from D tier and up, like pretty much every spec clears like 24s and things like that. So it's still good.
Yep.
It's still, you know, if it gets a little bit more love, just a little bit.
Yeah, this is the thing. Arms didn't really change its position that much, like since the start of 9.2. And this is not because it's like a faulty spec or whatever. We know we play with a lot of Arms Warriors. It's really fine. The thing is, other specs really got like the high end of the stick when it came to like the power they gained from the tier sets and double Legos and stuff. And you can see it like as we go further into the tier list. So Arms is not a bad spec. It's just when compared to the others at the highest keys.
It might need a little bit if you want to consider it a push spec. But speaking of a push spec, we can take a look at Assassination. And this kind of starts the specs distribution of where you can actually consider pushing keys. Although Assassination is maybe not the best at that. Although it is clearing keys higher than probably most of you and us as well. And it sits right nicely at the end of B tier.
It's a B tier, yeah.
It's clearing a little bit better than Arms. I was a little bit surprised by this, but it is doing keys
it's doing
higher.
better. It's doing better than previous seasons, as I would mention. And I did say this, that if things go as smooth as it was to be projected back in like 9.2 beta, Assassination did struggle in the past, but thanks to the tier set, especially when we're talking about like tyrannical weeks, it can really shine over there again, as opposed to like a Subtlety rogue or a Fury warrior or even a Havoc demon hunter. It's not as smooth and as fast paced, right? I mean, in its all fairness, it is a very high octane spec, but when it comes to Mythic Plus, you really need that smooth flow going, and Assassination needs a little bit of, let's say, micromanagement.
Maybe it's a little bit too high maintenance. You mentioned
probably,
that Assassination is kind of hard in AoE.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more micromanagement than other specs, and this will make it, well, as fun as that is, it will not be as efficient, right, as other specs on the list. But still, a B tier, very high keys being cleared by Assassination, so there it goes. Now, enhancement.
And speaking of key melee specs that can clear hierarchies, this has been hard to place, because if you look at the top players, the top melees that are clearing the highest of keys, it's really hard not to consider all of them S tier or at least top peak tier.
Everybody's a winner.
That's it, man. Like enhancement is an A tier, and it was when I was looking and doing all of this research, I was putting it into S tier. I couldn't find, but there's a little bit of a difference. But as far as I'm concerned, if you really want to push keys and you want to be competitive, you can start with anything from A tier. Everything else is clearing high keys, and if you want to have fun, that's fine. But starting with enhancement and going up, you're gonna actually really get the big numbers going.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's a similar story for Assassination, at least with Feral Druid and other specs that are coming right next to it. Feral Druids, as we know, got first off got nerfed, then they got buffed. Then I don't know, things kind of like rolled over. But again, similar to Assassination, this is another great spec that can work really great on Tyrannical. And we have to say this. It really. When we're talking about ranking these in M+, we're looking at mostly like the last couple of weeks or so. And if there's a Tyrannical week in there, you're definitely going to see a better performance for Feral Druid, for Assassination Rogue and stuff. So
you know what's interesting? Feral right now is kind of like B tier. It's better than Assassination. However, the top Feral in the world, Maystein, is clearing keys at the same level as the A tier specs.
Hello.
So this was we cannot put into A tier just because of one player, no, but that one player is basically proof that you can take a spec a tier higher if you know what you're doing.
Oh, for sure. So it's basically in the lead of the B tier, almost an A tier, but not that much because there's a lot of specs within the A tier. Still, Ferals, as much as we kind of complained about their performance and kind of felt bad that they weren't doing that good initially, they're decently good over there. Now let's talk about Frost Death Knight, which is another beast, I would say.
Oh
man, I've seen some Frost Death Knight.
This was a surprise. I mean, we know Frost is doing better this time around.
Yeah, but there's one condition for them to do better, right? This is the thing. So breadth is as amazing as it is, it's very difficult to maintain. I mean, it's not if you have like a team, especially with a tank who knows how breath works and how to be able to like maintain that breath going for the Frost DK. The Frost DK is going to deliver insane amount of AoE damage. It's ridiculous,
it's
but
very
that's the
high.
caveat.
That's the thing with Frost DK as well. It's not particularly difficult to maintain breath. It is very specific and pretentious. You cannot move around. You cannot have accesses that make you stop doing damage. You cannot go kick that or go stun that the other way. No, you have to be there and hit. And you kind of have to be a little bit babysat, because otherwise, if you drop breath, then it's particularly dog shit. However, Obliteration is also a backup plan that does a lot of damage. It has maybe more burst than breath, but it obviously trails off after that, since you cannot maintain it. Obviously, you only have it for a couple of seconds while Pillar lasts, but you do have access to a little bit quicker, so it's a safety net that you can compromise. I would say maybe Obliteration is around B tier-ish, but breath is definitely A tier. So Frost DK is kicking it hard, man.
Yeah, and it's about time. I mean, this is one of the specs that hasn't changed in a million times, in a million ways, in a million expansions. It's fair enough to be there. Now, one of the shining stars of 9.2 in all aspects of the game, the Fury Warriors. And this is what we're saying when we're talking about Arms Warrior, right? Fury really got like the better, I would say, bargain when it comes to the tier set that the Warriors have, and also the functionality of the double Legos. It basically enables them to be a lot more, I would say, consistent with their cleave and AoE, and also the buff to the single target is not to joke. I mean, they can do really good single target, no problemo. We talked about Fury being like always a cleave and AoE machine, but single target now is also really important. So
really good.
You're gonna see Fury Warriors in both Tyrannical and what the fuck?
Fortified.
Fortified, yeah. I was thinking bolstering. I was thinking bolstering.
I always say that. I don't know why.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Fury Warrior.
Fury Warrior is again like close to A tier. There's like one reason why I wouldn't put it into S tier. It's obviously better than Enhancement, by the way.
Yeah.
There's I think Byzantine, the rank 1 Fury Warrior, is among the top 25 highest keys cleared ever. The only Fury Warrior there, so that's kind of like what's maybe keeping it from becoming an S tier. But again, that's maybe one of the best Fury Warriors in the world, pulling up the spec a little bit further. So we're not gonna be able to rank it based on one person, but obviously by everybody else playing it. But Fury is solid.
Yeah. Okay. Now, next on the list, another very, very good performer in Mythic Plus, Havoc Demon Hunter. I mean, yeah, we haven't seen a Havoc Demon Hunter being this good. It was like
it was kind of BFA reminiscent right now.
Yeah, I mean, in BFA you saw a lot of Havoc Demon Hunters like at the top of the echelon, but right now, at least in this season, it's going there. I will not be surprised to actually see it at some point in like actually S tier.
The thing is with this year, it has high competition right now, and we're gonna get to that in a second. There are a lot of, so I mentioned that Fury, there's like Byzantine, that's the only Fury Warrior in the top 25 highest keys cleared, but there's a whole bunch of Havocs there as well, so it's still A tier. I was hesitant of putting it into S tier because there's a clear difference between S tier and A tier, but it might as well have been, if we get rid of the S tier spec, F tier, then everything that would have been there is A tier. Everything A tier is so freaking solid, man. You cannot go wrong.
It takes deleted to A tier, and this is the we already know what a Havoc Demon Hunter can do and how it can perform in a Mythic Plus scenario. Obviously, you have like the super mobility, the super constant damage all around, plus the CCs, plus the darkness, plus all of that. It's very good. It's very good. But realistically, all classes can bring something to the table in terms of a composition. However, damage profiles do make a difference, especially in higher and higher keys. So that counts, and Havoc delivers.
And now, speaking of, that's a good segue to go into Outlaw Rogue.
Yeah, Outlaw Rogue, who used to be.
I did not expect this, to be honest.
Well, I would say like the boys from Ravenhold, especially Forever Guy and a bunch of other folks like have pointed the issues with Outlaw Rogue for 9.2 since like forever. Apparently they kind of only receive some aura damage buffs, so this flat damage increase buffs, which are like on paper they look like 4%, but actually like in terms of like pure raw numbers, it's much lower than that. So the impact wasn't that high. Now
it's probably to bring a little bit of awareness and maybe to let people know, hey, listen, we're looking at the spec. At least that's how I like to see it, because right now Outlaw unfortunately is a D tier spec.
It's the D
I
tier.
really wanted this time around not to have any D tier specs. However, Outlaw unfortunately is behind even the former bottom tier specs before. And even with that, like I mentioned at the beginning, Outlaws are still clearing 25s. I think they're even getting into 26 keys. I think I might have seen one or two a person do this. So
when you compare the keys done by like the logs and data from Outlaw keys, right, and you compare it to like Havocs and Furies and stuff, there's like, well, I mean, we're looking at like 28s, 29s and stuff like that. So it's a big ass difference, right?
Yeah.
Now, my favorite on the list here, and I don't care if it's D tier, I don't care if it's S tier, Red Paladin, which is a blast to play. It's very reminiscent of how, what I would say, like WoD in a sense, with a lot of procs because of the tier set, obviously, but it did enable Red Paladins to be a lot more consistent rather than just that 1 minute burst or 2 minute burst. It's, I would say, very rewarding to be able to contribute to your comp in a lot of different ways, but this was like the compensation price as a paladin. Oh, of course I'm gonna sack you, of course I'm gonna throw you a heal, throw you freedom, maybe bubble taunt and all that, but now you can also contribute with damage. And by no surprise, Red Paladin was a strong C tier last time. It has moved up a notch, and it's behind Feral.
It's above Assassination. It's very close to Feral. Like Feral is maybe just a smidge better, but there's no real difference between the two. And a lot of logs and a lot of detailed numbers, DPS meters, don't show how good a Red Paladin is in your team, specifically now since the Prot Paladin meta has kind of dropped a little bit, although Holy is still picking up steam. But if you don't have a Holy Paladin in your team, having a red is so amazing right now. There's so much damage, and the CC utility is unparalleled.
There's a couple of dungeons where actually, you know, a lot of Wake of Ashes procs from the tier set can help constantly stun.
Been like, there, man.
Yeah, Tear of Pain, I think Plague Fall
for sure.
Wow, Necrotic Wake as well. So there's a couple of dungeons where you have them in rotation. You can definitely feel feel there's a red paladin there, especially with the force set, because the mobs just stay there, don't do anything because of Wake of Ashes procs.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about. I would say
it's coming. You know it. You know it.
So Sub Rogue, baby, Sub Rogue. When we talked about Sub Rogue in Shadowlands, I don't know if you guys remember. First season it was shit. Second season it was decent enough, but like starting off from, I would say 9.1 was kind of like the turning point for Sub Rogue, especially with the buffs it got then, and then moving into 9.1.5 and 9.2 with the tier sets and double Legos, it just got stronger and stronger. I mean, it didn't get nerfed in any way because it didn't have to. It's not a broken spec. It's only like the kit right now is basically complete for Sub Rogues. If you had some issues in the past and previous seasons, now
Sub Rogue, set, you mean?
Yeah, tier set and double Legos, right? It's basically completes the spec in a way where it can deliver on every single avenue in a high key. So you're looking at funnel damage, no problem. You're looking at boss damage, no problem. Looking at massive AoE, no problem. Looking at cleave, no problem. It's basically
get a sub in your group, no problem.
The Sub Rogue is definitely an S tier, no problem. Again, guys, and we can talk about the utility of the rogue or whatever, but this is the point I was making when talking about Assassination. Sub Rogue has access to a lot more tools for it to deliver that damage and deliver like even that CC if needed, as opposed to Assassination, which does imply a little bit more micromanagement. So this is, you need more efficiency, more fast pace, so you can move on to the next pack and do that key in time.
And that's Sub Rogue.
Yep. All right. Next up, look at that.
Survival Hunter. All right. There are a few things to speak about, to talk about when it comes to survival. So let's first start by putting it way above S tier, rank 1 melee. The only reason why it's not alone into S tier, because it would be cool to see like the king, the undisputed king, is because Sub Rogue is actually really good. However, survival is actually starting to get into the 30s. I think I've seen a couple of 30s being cleared with teams that have Survival Hunter. It's no surprise. The tier set is really good.
And you've seen them in the MDI too. I mean, when was the last time you saw Survival Rogues in MDI, dude? Seriously,
you never saw Survival Rogues, Survival Hunters in MDI. I mean, we knew this was bound to happen. I think we had it lower in the tier list as the patch rolled out, and now it's pretty much confirmed. Unless it's going to be hit by a massive nerf, which I don't know if they will do this, because it's not like Distro Warlock where Distro just does 5 times more damage than everybody else. So it's still good. It's an S tier. It's not far ahead of Sub, but it is a smidge above right now, and it's the king, it's the new age.
You're the spear. The people called it out. This is it. At least in Mythic Plus, you'll see it. It's there. It's the king, and I love to see it there. Holy hell, man! It's something like really look at this, because traditionally Sub and Survival, for the longest time, you never saw these on top of S tier, man. Get the fuck out of here. What is this?
Was their time, man. Yeah. What a time to have their time, though.
Okay. Now, Unholy Death Knight.
The previous bottom of the barrel spec.
I mean, we can make like almost the same arguments as Arms versus Fury.
It's a little bit better, yeah. Overall, in the meta's doing a smidge better.
Yep.
It's likely not going to climb any higher unless there's some like proper changes to it, because the tier set really wants it to do heavy single target, which is good.
It's good, very good.
It's good priority damage, but it's always going to pull it a little bit back when it comes to AoE. It's nice, the AoE is nice, but the way that it accesses its AoE compared to every other spec, and we can compare it to Survival, although that's not a fair comparison, it's not the same. It's not the same. You have to put in a little bit more work. However, Unholy is maybe one of the more fun DPS specs to play. You can still take it into your keys. The cooldowns and the build that you have working with Unholy right now, it's hard to get bored. You always have cooldowns rolling around. You have Army of the Damned after Army of the Damned. It is amazingly fun.
Yeah, there's the thing. Similar argument as we made with the S and A tier specs, like the access to AoE and instant damage, is there, as opposed to like Unholy, where you do need a little bit more, I would say, micromanagement, similar to Assassination Rogue and Feral in that sense. But I would say in terms of like single target damage, they still have to compete, like pure single target tyrannical, right? They still have to compete with like Ferals and Reds and Assassination rogues who traditionally can do, I would say, better single target damage than an Unholy DK.
And I mean sub
so, well, yeah, I'm just talking about this range here, like
Sure,
here. It's a hard competition for them to like move
together
further.
with Feral and together with Feral, Outlaw, and Arms. It seems like one of the specs that would require a little bit more attention from the devs, but
sure.
we'll see how they address it in the future.
All right,
And
former king of everything.
speaking of the future, let's refer to the past.
Yeah, Windwalker monks, baby.
I think this is actually one of the highest surprises for me right now because, okay, Windwalking monks are still really good. They do a lot of damage. They still have amazing utility. Likely it is you're gonna have a Windwalker in your group before you're gonna have anything else. Maybe Brewmaster, but we'll see. So that ring, that physical damage
Mystic
debuff,
touch, yeah.
it's probably gonna come from your Windwalker first.
Yeah, Windwalker, I mean, it's no joke of a spec. Obviously, it still delivers super high AoE damage. You've seen it in DMGI, you see it in logs as well. It's there.
Again, accessible, kind of like proc related, but still not cooldown related. For instance.
Exactly. That proc is very high over there, and also single target is decent enough. It's not there quite yet. I mean, there's still issues with the single target, but once again, it's not to the extent where it's broken and cannot do any single target damage. It still delivers, but its main prowess will be forever, at least at this season, AoE, and it does that well.
Check this. It's behind enhancement.
Yeah, man. I've seen that.
Enhancement. I did not expect this. So, yeah, that's kind of how the tier list looks right now.
Oh, yeah.
There are some shakeups. There are some expected results, like Survival and Sub are still pretty much kings. I did not expect Havoc to overtake stuff like Windwalker and Fury Warrior, but there we go.
There it is,
and
man.
I definitely did not expect Frost DK to be an A-tier spec. So.
But again, when we're talking about this spec is doing better or worse, we're looking once again at the highest key these specs did in terms of like what we have the data on, logs and all of that. So just to give again the example, Survival and Sub are getting into 30s, while the biggest key from an Outlaw rogue was maybe 25, 26.
24s is kind of like 24, the average. I think they're starting to peak with last week, having it been an easy week to do keys with. So probably starting to peak a little bit higher. Maybe we don't have all the logs yet. Maybe we don't have all the keys cleared yet. But yeah, that's kind of how it is.
That's how it is. But that being said, 24 keys is the lowest. So everybody's doing well in terms of like you and me and Flame here. Because if you're like pushing like 21s or 22, if going in above 20s, you'll do fine with any of these specs, no problem. Or if you want to get like that Keystone Master or whatever, any spec over here will work, no problem. Just have fun with it, okay?
For sure.
And you know who else has fun?
Our patrons should probably have fun because they are supporting this, and it actually really helps. We make a lot of cool stuff, and it's in no small part thanks to you for making all of this possible, increasing the quality of our gear, sound, audio, lights, and cameras.
Content is being made thanks to you guys, and we can still sustain this and move it forward and create new things and maintain new things. So you're supporting the class, guys, the podcast, the TLFs, the on cooldowns, the streams, all of that. So thank you, guys. And if you want to join the team in any capacity on the Patreon, just check it in the description.
Down
There's
below.
multiple tiers over there with different rewards and stuff. Check it out and help brothers out. It means a lot.
Appreciate it.
It means a whole lot. And thank you for watching until this point. We wish you.
See you next time.
A great weekend.
Merry Christmas.
No, great weekend. Shut up. A great weekend. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.